After what looked to be a momentary lull in the Bitcoin market, it appears that things are starting to pick up speed again in this video. I want to discuss a concern raised by John Deaton. Earlier today, in the SEC's appeal of the Ripple SEC case, a critical date for the SEC. The decision to file an appeal in this case is rapidly coming. I'm going to focus on what John Deaton said in this video because I believe you'll find that things are actually starting to look really good for Ripple's chances in this situation, and I sincerely doubt that the SEC would have filed an appeal near the end of the year. In this video, I'd also like to talk about $1,000 XRP. Ripple's recent announcement that they were entering one of the world's largest markets was quite promising. I'd like to show you exactly how XRP will be used in this, which will be beneficial. You can see why so many people are uninformed of how far XRP can grow in the future. First and foremost, I'd like to relay some recent breaking news. The Federal Reserve just tweeted Justin, announcing a new endeavor to monitor cryptocurrency-related activities. Before dealing with stable coinage, Federal Reserve banks must obtain formal authorization. Many people are now using this to back up their assertions that the Federal Reserve is cracking down on activity tied to cryptocurrency, but I do not believe that is the case. But what this truly represents, in my opinion, is the Federal Reserve's recognition that many of these banks and organizations will eventually want to adopt Bitcoin technology, and that they must ensure the rules are in place to make that possible right away. And what we observed for a long time, particularly with the SEC, was that by withholding guidelines and standards on how a corporation could truly use cryptocurrencies, they were in effect defining them in essence. These are the rules. To ensure that we allow that, we must supply them with overarching regulations, even if these regulations are likely to be stringent and surely imperfect. I still feel they are a significant step forward and demonstrate that American institutions are willing to embrace this technology. Otherwise, the Federal Reserve would not have developed a program like this. The evolution of this will be fascinating to watch, but one of the more curious features of this issue is that Michael Baer, a former Ripple board member, is one of the F8 board members who is directly participating in this action. One of those things is usually a source of contention for me. Consider one of those things that appear too good to be true. This person who worked at Ripple for 4 to 5 years briefly vanished and is now in charge of the Federal Reserve's supervision of these cryptocurrency-related operations, just as crypto rules are being introduced in the United States, and just as XRP gains clarity. Some may regard it as a coincidence. It's just one of those things you notice. It's difficult for me to believe that at least some of it wasn't staged. In the background, to be sure. However, the fact that this man was a former member of the Ripple board and is now in charge of various cryptocurrency-related initiatives is undeniably positive. I would never suggest whether or not he decides to take steps that will assist Ripple and XRP, since he will be working for a cryptocurrency. Startups are at least encouraging, since it gives us some comfort that he will not be a Gary Gensler-type figure out to devastate the industry as a whole. This was breaking news to me. I suppose that many people will think about this subject over time. Regardless of your point of view, it illustrates that major American organizations are informing the Federal Reserve that they are ready to begin embracing cryptocurrencies for their intended purposes. So please provide us with the rules in this instance so that we can transport them. At this point, I'd want to briefly explain the concept of an appeal because it has recently been a hot topic. To begin, I'd like to summarize what John Deaton said concerning appeals in this case. I'd want to make a couple of extra points, because I believe you'll want to know what he said in his fantastic section on Twitter earlier today. When will this be finished? Is there much time left before a key date that will determine whether or not if this appeal is successful? Seriousness is approaching, but first, let's hear what John Deaton has to say. Course has never been the subject of a summary judgment. To put things in perspective, the decision was reversed. Raycost only gave you 56 out of 53 reversals, so the news is wonderful for XRP and the entire cryptocurrency business. Especially now that PayPal, BlackRock, and Larry Fink are participating, and perhaps now everyone is beginning to comprehend or perceive what was previously upheld, understood, or perceived. In my opinion, the future should be fine. Just a quick question, John. Judge Torres took considerable care to base his decision in the Ripple case solely on already established case law. She disagreed with Ripple's reasoning from the bench when making laws, which was that the key ingredient test would be a novel idea you believe makes it more difficult for her decision to be successfully appealed to the SEC, essentially applied to Howey factors rigorously to each type of sell. Because the SEC accused Steinman, which is a strong case that SEC was the one who declared that these institutional sells are securities. Workers or independent contractors can obtain XRP by purchasing securities on exchanges known as programmable sells. The secretary assumed that she just answered all right and followed Simon's lead by taking the test concerning the fundamental policy of the AXT because Judge Torres failed to distinguish between such securities and sales. Howey's suggestion. In the Howey case, the Supreme Court plainly emphasizes that test satisfaction is the sole criterion that matters. As a result, what John Deaton is stating. There is a critical statement implying that he does not believe this ruling would be overturned because Judge Torres used the senator's argument that the Howey test should be applied to each sale. In the same Twitter thread, John Deaton stated that he believes Judge Torres' decision will stand and will not be contested. I believe he was expressing his belief that the Secretary's appeal is unlikely to succeed. However, even if the SEC decides to appeal, John Deaton does not believe they will be successful, and even if they do. If the SEC merely appealed to appeal, they would have to do it by the 13th. Otherwise, there would be no appeal. The SEC could submit another appeal when the litigation is resolved, but that won't happen for another year or two. We might have very different folks in the SEC, so that is entirely practical from my perspective. The SEC intends to submit an appeal by the 13th. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the derivatives market, ISD is an organization dedicated to it. Derivatives are valued at $1.2 quadrillion. Furthermore, this company will tokenize the derivatives, which have a value of $1.2 quadrillion now, if XRP were able to take just 10% of this market, and I'll explain how XRP would take this market in a moment. If XRP were able to achieve that, XRP would then trade at $1,000, so it is easy to understand why Ripple joined. This group's plan to tokenize derivatives worth $1.2 quadrillion would be a significant problem for XRP. So, in what way does XRP symbolize this? All assets will be tokenized in the future, and once tokenized, they will be transferred onto blockchains, such as the XRP ledger. Every one of the specified assets will necessitate liquidity. Liquidity will be reconnected to XRP on the XRP ledger at some point. As a result, these numerous transactions will necessitate liquidity as one derivative must be bridged to another because that derivative must be linked to a stock, real estate, or other transaction. XRP and the XRP ledger will surely be the natural native liquidity for the ledger XRP, the more high-value asset classes that are added to the ledger, and the more value that flows into the ledger, the higher the price of XRP will need to increase to cover all assets with liquidity. Imagine if the XRP ledger contained $100 billion in derivatives, because its market cap would not even cover the number of derivatives you have established on the blockchain. If you have an active market being built, you will need XRP to have a significantly greater market cap than 50 billion, because the more value the XRP ledger can absorb, and it will not just come from derivatives. This one is just ridiculously enormous. The higher the price of XRP must be to achieve perfect liquidity for all of these different asset classes, the greater the value added to XRP. Ledger, because of this, Ripple's participation in this initiative is really exciting. Demonstrates to someone like me how this market will be completely independent of cross-border payments, ODL, or anything else. No one is paying attention to this area, even though it is large and ripe for disruption, and the XRP ledger is the ideal tool for that. Overall is very exciting, I believe. The assets themselves will undergo some exponential growth as we begin to see many of these assets tokenized on blockchains, such as the XRP ledger. As previously said, all of these diverse assets will eventually be tokenized. All of these varied assets will be highly valuable, and XRP will provide the system's liquidity. As more value is added to the ledger, the price of XRP will have to climb to provide liquidity for the new system. People, I hope you enjoyed this update. Please remember to like and subscribe if you genuinely appreciate what I'm saying right now.